Yep.
Yeah, it popped up in Google Meet. I'm trying to see if it pops up in YouTube. Still says I'm waiting. Oh, there I am. Sweet. All right. Yeah. Um. Well, hello guys. At your boy Apollos, you're not so Chad, American Filipino, conservative Christian. Um, and I'm here with Doxastic Mastery, Tim Howard. Um, and yeah, I did a recent debate in Modern Day Debate, and yeah, we had like two atheists, Ember and Marguerite, respond to us in a review, and so we're gonna be reviewing them back. But before that, let's introduce ourselves to our guests over here today. So yeah, how are you, man? How are you, Tim?
I'm fantastic, man. No, glad to be here. Love the debate. It was awesome. Help you prep with it. So we'll love to see what we talk about and how we kind of sift through some of the responses.
Yeah, for sure. And you recently were on the Alex O'Connor's One Atheist versus 25 Christians, and can you tell us a little bit about that? Like, what was the reason for you going in there, and why people should watch it, and what it was like?
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, Jubilee, they got an awesome platform going, right? And the cool thing about this one is if you've seen some of the other ones, probably more political ones, the 25 verses, right? The Surrounded series, it gets pretty heated and can get pretty toxic. This episode didn't. I had a lot of people actually saying that it was probably the most respectful conversation they have seen yet on the platform. I'm about 3 minutes marks, 3 minutes in, and so if you want to see me gonna go toe to toe with Alex on the problem of animal suffering, then that's kind of where that is. And so, yeah, I mean, Alex brought the heat, and there was really good Christians. Shout out to two of my buddies, Than Christopoulos, Big John Steele, also my buddy Coley. I think that we had the best performances amongst the crew there. So if you want to see some good representation, but yeah, my goal for being there was to just kind of show the public that there is a thoughtful Christianity. And that's really what it is. And that's what we do at Doxastic Mastery, helping you not just have these pre-made regurgitated answers for things, but to help you master your worldview and actually take ownership where you have the tools to be able to come to your own answers of things while retaining the core essence of your beliefs. So that's the idea there. And that was
Yeah,
the
so
whole purpose.
yeah, and yeah, Tim and Than Christopoulos, who did his debate against Matt Dillahunty, helped me prep for my debate in Modern Day Debate. Who also was on the 25 Christians versus one atheist. Um, and there's one other thing I was gonna say, but in any case, maybe it'll come back to me later. You were talking about your Worldview Mastermind Academy and how through exclusive membership, people get to have one-on-one coaching, group mentorship calls pertaining to the philosophy of religion. Maybe you can be just as nerdy as us, like talking about the axiological expectation mismatch problem. Um, but yeah, that's a little bit about what you've been doing, Tim. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, man. I mean, basically, the if you want, a precise way, a systematic way to get to the next level of your apologetics journey and going from just I have a bunch of answers of things or arguments, but really getting to that level of competency where you're really taking ownership over these things, the one that's long lasting, where you don't have to go through university or watch a whole bunch of YouTube videos or read a whole bunch of books. One where you actually value your time, you're actually able to get that done within 30 to 90 days. That's why I exist, and that's why the platform exists. And so if you want to work with me personally, and I can see if I can help you achieve those results in a timely manner, where you can get to the next level, not within the next year, but in the next 3 months, then you can actually go to my website, doxasticmastery.com, and fill out the form there to work with me personally. And I can see if it's a right fit to create you your own personalized learning plan and to get direct feedback. Practice makes perfect, but good feedback also makes perfect as well. So that's the whole goal of this. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say as far as plugging things like that. So
For sure. All right, yeah, that's all fine and dandy. And let me stop presenting over here and move on to the tab because Google Meet is funny when it comes to sharing audio. Um, Present. Debate review. Share. All right. See over here. It's this one. All right. So yeah, I hear about the. Let's see over here. They start talking about me. In the 1 hour and 15-minute mark. But any other preliminary thoughts you have about the debate, Tim? Because I know I mentioned that it's a little bit different when you're actually in the heat of the moment, when you're getting missed opportunities and getting caught off before finishing a thought, and then the next thing you know, we move on to the next thought before you can finish out your argument. But yeah, anything else regarding me or Travis's performance?
Yeah, I thought you guys did great, and I think the debate. I don't know why the debate went on as long as it did. You guys were you were there for a hot minute. I think that's a indictment against modern day debate. I don't know what that was for. But I think that ultimately your interlocutors were emotionally interesting people to debate on these kinds of topics. I think that you and Travis brought a lot of nuance to the discussion, and I felt like they were not really wanting to accept the nuanced takes that you guys were bringing. Ultimately, I've looked at both of their content, and you know, they weren't debating Christian fundamentalists. So I think that it was an interesting back and forth that happened. But also, I think that the content that you and Travis brought was on point. I think that was overwhelmingly missed by your interlocutors as well. And yeah, I think that, you know, your interlocutors were very much focused on rhetoric and really kind of controlling the conversation as much as they possibly could. And I think that the spirit of philosophy in terms of the exchanging of ideas was definitely not present. But ultimately, I think that what shows is the content of what you're talking about. And of course, like I will say the same thing for my Alex O'Connor appearance. You know, you're gonna miss things in the heat of the moment, right? And you don't really, unless you're really used to it, you know, you don't have access to what we call lateral thinking, which is higher degrees of creative, logical thinking on the fly. And so, yeah, obviously we always learn from those things. So, but yeah, man, we could just jump right into it, bro.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. That, and then this. Okay. Open up my doc over here, a list of stuff. So first thing to react to. Okay, wait, that's too low. Let me know if you can hear it too, Tim.
Omni-triadic God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and eternal life for those who confess his lordship. There are some important second-order beliefs that we exclude from the scope of our investigation of whether Christianity is true or false. Therefore, I encourage our
we're just going to, you know, sort of prevent you from talking about the young old Earth creationism, mass scale exodus. Yeah, I just ignore all of that. That doesn't matter.
Yeah, we're just gonna. I mean, this goes directly against Grayson's argument about all the schisms and disagreements and things. Like, never mind all the inconsistencies and mutually contradictory positions that people get from the.
Yeah, this is really an uncharitable way to approach the subject matter, especially when you consider we only have like 6-minute opening statements. I mean, the very fact that we're defending a position that has logically exclusive subsets doesn't entail that the entire position is wrong. I mean, like, does that all of a sudden now like falsify like different theories of like quantum gravity or like early universe cosmology or different theories of evolution? I don't know. I just found it to be really pedantic. What do you think, Tim?
I mean, this is a common strategy to do. I mean, it makes their job easier, right? I mean, any charitable good faith interpretation of what you're saying is saying, you know, let's approach this with what is clear and let's not hyper focus on the unclear so that it infects the whole. I mean, that's really what you're saying right now. You're saying, hey, listen, if we go with a more of a mere Christianity, like you said, like include but are not limited to these ideas, and it's going to be completely red herring. Like if anybody really believes, right, that to be a Christian, therefore you have to have all of these things figured out, It's completely red herring, and they're completely motivated by not truth, but by an agenda. And really, at that point, I call them an activist at some point. So this whole kind of atheist activism mentality, where you find any nitpicky, like you said, pedantic point to avoid layers of argument, it's we see it all the time. It's the handbook, it's the playbook. We have it. I see right through it.
Yeah, for sure. And like this literally applies to atheism too. Like there are vegan atheists, there are like non-vegan atheists, there are atheists who don't subscribe to a form of objective morality. There are some atheists who subscribe to a form of sort of like moral realism or humanism.
Yeah.
So like
100%.
Yeah, this is not a strike against me by any respect of the matter. Let's see over here. Next point. Oh, dang
You
it.
can't predict sick days.
Gotta get that ad block.
You
Yeah.
can.
The discussion
God,
is much shorter. If they
Here we are.
well, do you think the Bible is reliable? Turn around and say, can you drink poison and not die? Then it's not reliable.
Yeah, and it's very strange because most of the a majority of
Oh wait, did I have
say, hey, that we know
wrong
that was
link?
added because all of the the overwhelming consensus of scholars is that was added in a later edition of Mark. Mark being the first.
Yeah, I had the wrong link. Hold up, give me a second. My bad. So yeah, over here.
Examples of Sai Baba, who only died in like 2011. There's video evidence of this dude performing miracles. So we have not only a gazillion living witnesses, but also hard evidence. And no Christian is convinced by this. Much objectively stronger evidence. So,
Did I get the wrong link?
Yeah, we're pretty far ahead.
Oh, okay. My bad. Let's see here.
The apologists seem to like doing it is having things on the screen to back them up while they're talking.
Oh yeah, I remember you made a complaint about that. But the fact of the matter is, I got permission from Modern Day Debate to use. Oh, it's because it's part 2. That's why.
Made 2 parts, really.
They made 3 parts, man.
Okay. Weird.
Yeah.
Again, activism. That's what this is.
100%. Pretty loud, right?
It's kind of
151.32.
mutually contradictory positions.
The point here is the inerrancy, inspiration, infallibility, or reliability of the Holy Scripture. If you take away the reliability of your holy document, what have you got? Like, what do you have if you take away your? Like, if you just basically say, "Hey, the Bible's not reliable. It's not. We shouldn't look to it for any answers. It could be completely false." But one of the previous ones in scope was the resurrection of Jesus, right? So if you take away the Bible, you literally have nothing for the resurrection of Jesus.
Oh, holy shit. This is such a complete misrepresentation of what I was saying. Like, all I was saying was that at minimum, we need a Bible with a degree of reliability that necessitates the existence of a Christian God. Like, spoiler alert, no document needs to be 100% perfect in order to be historically reliable. The very fact that these fools come up with alternative explanations to the data shows you the hypocrisy of their standards. Like, the Bible is reliable enough for certain historical facts to allow these jokers to recreate their critiques and alternate explanations. Because as you can see in that earlier clip that I was trying to show earlier in part 2, they were talking about drinking poison and like not dying. Let me just pull that up real quick. And all of a sudden, that's a strike against like.
Do you think the Bible is reliable? Turn around and say, "Can you drink poison and not die?"
Yeah, there it is.
Reliable,
Yeah, and it's very strange because
so like one mistake all of a sudden means it's not reliable, but like a fact in favor of the Bible all of a sudden doesn't mean it's reliable. Yeah, I just find that like really hypocritical. Anything you want to add, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, right, when they say, "Oh, do you believe the Bible is 100% reliable," or this and that, I mean, I think that's just really bad word games and language games. I mean, if we're gonna do good thinking, right, we have to know what words mean. We have to know what definitions mean. And when we say something is reliable, when we say somebody's reliable, we're assessing its character on the whole, right? We are generalizing over instances, and we are saying, all things being equal, we can conclude the Bible's reliable, meaning, or the New Testament's reliable. meaning that the facts that it reports, right, on average, right, corroborate with actual historical events, and that's really all. That's really all you have to say. And it doesn't. This idea of going from general to specific. I mean, it's complete red herring, and also it just completely betrays and misrepresents what the actual argument is here. So it'd be like saying that, if let's say you have a friend who's reliable. Okay, so if you have a friend who's reliable, does that mean that your friend never, ever, and has never, ever, let's say, shown up late to an event, or forgot to, fulfill a promise? No, that's not what it means. It means, generally, when you look at the timeline and the total set of behaviors and patterns that your friend engages in, we can conclude by generalizing that your friend is a reliable person, right? There's a high degree of probability that if you have friend A and friend B, and that friend A, on average, usually shows up on time to events, but friend B, on average, does not, you're going to choose friend A, not out of certainty, but out of a higher probability. Okay, that's all we're saying here. And so again, these misunderstanding of words, misrepresentations of positions, is a complete black mark on whatever kind of atheism they're trying to fight for in this video.
100%. Yeah, and then next one. This one's a little bit more funny.
Ads in 2025, you're doing
Oh, of course, it
wrong.
gives me an ad about an ad
If you're
blocker.
tired of being bombarded.
Spoilers.
Nevertheless, differing
But
Just
yeah,
set
here's
it up,
the next
bro.
one. Yeah.
beliefs on the periphery of any field shouldn't discount the entire enterprise. For example, the debate.
He's literally going for maximum syllables.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Maximum syllables, she said. She said I'm too stupid. Make me intelligent, please. Maximum syllables. I mean, like, Ember, if you're watching, like, seriously, this is so cringe. Like, it's simply a failure to misunderstand basic vocabulary and just, like, begging for handouts for understanding. Even when I'm not even trying to put on a show, you go, error, malfunction, ad hominem attack versus looking at a dictionary, activate. Seriously, like,
Yeah, I mean, this is not. I mean, this is not the flex or the strategy they think it is it?
yeah, for sure.
No.
Like, there was no intent behind my phraseology to impress the audience. That's just how I was speaking. Like, if you want to, like, look for someone who actually goes for maximum syllables, you should look at someone like this guy. Oh, whoops. Did the bullet point too? Go. Oh, whoops. Come on. Yeah.
Are you sharing something?
Oh yeah. Was it not showing?
No.
Oh, okay. Never mind. But yeah. If you want to go for maximum syllables, you should look towards something like. Let's see over here. Present something else. Share.
You sick in the mind? Are you that mentally enslaved and intellectually subservient? And
Oh man.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, for sure.
Great.
Yeah, let's switch over. Video settings.
That's just synonym farming. That's all that is.
Synonym farming.
Yeah, bro.
Present something else. Let's see, debate review. Share. But let me make sure I'm still presenting the tab. Share. Let me just. Bro needs that ad block. Someone said in the chat. Don't know who it is.
I saw that. I was waiting for you to see that.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, this next one. It's before 5408. Sorry, you can tell I don't stream a lot.
All good, man. All good.
Like, Bible not important, scripture not important. Who knew?
It's just,
Oh,
I mean, I'm a Star
Me
Trek
too,
fan.
Ember.
I like the word Enterprise, but there was no reason to use that there.
Between string theory and loop quantum gravity doesn't falsify our findings in quantum physics. To falsify Christianity, we contend that these two issues are challenged, namely the evidence for the existence of God and the bodily resurrection of Jesus as signifying Christian God's existence. Now on to the resurrection of Jesus. Regardless of whether anyone after
We're just going to zoom right past that.
They've already chucked out scripture as being reliable because they won't discuss it. So what have you got for the resurrection of Jesus?
Maybe we'll get into that
Maybe.
somewhat. It looks kind of apologeticy to me. A little excusegetics coming on, perhaps.
Look, the
I
criteria
mean,
for
it is
the criterion
6-minute
of
opening
dissimilarity,
statements, to be
these criterions are
fair.
just ridiculous because, like, the criterion of dissimilarity says, oh, because they weren't the same, it's more likely to have happened.
Did you catch that? What he just said? He said that the criterion of dissimilarity is just because they're dissimilar, therefore it happened. Let me replay that again real quick.
Do the
Excusegetics coming on, perhaps.
Look, the criterion of embarrassment, the criterion of dissimilarity, these criterions are just ridiculous because, like, the criterion of dissimilarity says, oh, because they weren't the same, it's more likely to have happened.
What a complete misrepresentation.
so
Oh.
my issue is like words mean things. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
like positions have content. Do they just kind of have like a kryptonite like towards like knowing and properly defining terms and representing positions, or is this the game that they're going to be playing the entire time, which is rhetorically downplay the sense of what you're saying and then purposefully, right, obfuscate the meaning of terms and misrepresent them and package them in a different way so that the audience that they're looking to, who doesn't go and actually read the scholarship on this, is just going to trust what they say, right? I mean, I think it's very interesting that what she called it, like, or whoever called it, like, excusegetics and whatnot. And it's like, that's like great, cool, but again, back to the content, like, what is the argument here? And so I think there's a little bit of hypocrisy, you know, being done here, which is, yeah, you have an impressionable audience as well. That's not going to do the research here. They're gonna bet on you guys, and you guys are specifically misrepresenting and obfuscating meanings of terms. Well, one, because you just don't think it's serious to begin with, so you don't even think, like, I mean, bro, I mean, let's just be honest. Like, they don't even care about, even because they don't think that any of this is worth taking seriously. Why should they have a motivation for presenting it in a serious way? I mean, that's all this really is.
Yeah, for sure. And they tend to quote Ehrman a lot, and he's on the record for saying this about the criterion of dissimilarity. Present something else. Share. So just saying, like, it ain't just some hand-wavy criteria.
It's the main criterion.
Well, that's not the only criterion.
No, but you said it passes. You said it passes all the criteria, and I'm telling you, the most important criteria doesn't pass.
So this is in reference to the criteria of dissimilarity, and he calls it the most important criteria.
That's my body. Stop thinking about the wine this way. So just about anything you said, it passes.
No.
Criteria.
Well, no, it doesn't pass crazy criterion. It doesn't at all pass the criterion of dissimilarity.
Yeah, there it is, criterion of dissimilarity. So yeah.
So we have a scholar who isn't religiously affiliated, nor does he have any motive to make religious people look good, or to fight for his camp or his tribe or whatever, saying that the criterion of dissimilarity is not only important, but what did you say, the most important? So
yeah,
we don't even need that. I mean, we don't even need him to say it's the most important. We just need him to say that it's one of the other criteria.
Yeah,
like
100%.
So,
and
I mean,
not only to mention that they don't understand the criterion of dissimilarity. It's not, oh, it's dissimilar, therefore it happened. It's more so given the probabilistic trajectory of everything we know about Jewish culture and early Christianity, what we would expect for them to make up if they were left.
I mean, here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm already telling. I don't know who these people are at all, but we're already telling. Like if, I mean, it's like what you just said. They're saying that your position reduces to a non sequitur. They're saying criterion dissimilarity, therefore it happened. If anyone really believes that, like, if I believe that my friend believes something based on a non sequitur, I first go, okay, maybe I've done something wrong. Because most of the time we don't believe things based on non sequiturs, based on a one-step inference. Right. But the fact that they believe that your position can be reduced to a one-step inference is which is a total non sequitur, again reveals how just unserious they think this is, and so that can cover and makes and sense of their sloppiness. And that's all we're dealing with here. Like, you can explain it all day long, bro. I love that for you. But really, at the end of the day, you're holding them to too high of a standard, because they don't hold themselves to that standard. So let's hold them to their own standard, right? Like,
yeah, 100%. Like the intermediary logical step is a super important distinction to make, because as with many atheists, these two fools strawman me into saying evidence, therefore the conclusion, therefore deductively follows. It's like, bro, if you want to interpret your opponents charitably, think like 2 steps ahead. Maybe I'm mentioning the criterion because it appeals to countering an objection that the sayings were made up or something. You know?
I mean, ultimately, right? I mean, that would make you rational, and the audience doesn't want that.
Yeah.
How
Can the Christian be rational?
Is that I'm supposed to believe my faith is supposed to be epistemically akin to believing in the swamp man down the street that my Uncle Joe told me about that I've never seen before. That's supposed to be the level of rationality of our faith to them. So let's keep going. This is good. This is good.
Yeah, for sure. 156.40. 156.40. She said that my intro was super long. Well, I was actually under by a minute. So, I mean, to be fair, like, the content of what I was presenting was relatively there was a lot to unpackage, but that's just the nature of a debate when you're talking about 2 versus 2 Christianity versus atheism, which has the evidence, and then you have like a 6-minute opening. So yeah, like, don't know where she's getting this idea. Like, my opening is like a bunch of word salad or whatever. But yeah, the next one. Oh yeah, this is a good one. 159.16.
Are you playing it?
Oh snap!
You're still on the other one.
Oh, the Bart Ehrman Bass debate. Okay,
Mhm.
gotcha. My bad. Thank you, Tim.
No worries, man.
Yeah. Let's see over here. Present something else. This one. Here we go. Oh, whoops. Escape. 26. What did I say earlier? Oh yeah, 56.40. No, that's the one I just did about the long intro. It's all right. We can skip that one. 59.16. 59.16. So just 10 seconds back from this. So I just need the left arrow key. All right, there we go.
Mark, which the other 3 canonical gospels copied from, is written in the exact formatted formula of Greek mythological stories. It is a built.
Did you catch that, Tim?
I did.
Yeah, but let's hear her talk even more. Expound this on
legend, and there's so much more to it than that. Like the fact that the Mark story hinges on the empty tomb, and Paul never mentions the empty tomb, almost like it was made up after Paul. But
okay, yeah, let's first address this idea that, like, the Gospels, the Synoptic Gospels as we have them, are written in the exact fashion of like freaking Greco-Roman myth. Like, this is just complete nonsense.
I mean, that's in pure, like, I mean, I want to go say it's totally all the way. I'd say that's empirically just not the case. But go ahead. You had something. You were cooking there.
Yeah, so like Richard Burge was a classicist, mind you. Like, he wasn't a biblical scholar, like a classicist. So if there was anyone who was immersed in and could differentiate between the various Greco-Roman histories, novels, fictions, mythologies, it would be someone of Richard Burge's caliber. And originally he set out to disprove the Gospels were anything like history, and his conclusion was that they are best situated in the genre of not mythology, not fiction, not novellas, but Greco-Roman biographies. And to this day, like, the vast majority of biblical scholars recognize them as such. Now, what I argued for was a more up-to-date model called the historical reportage model, as advanced by Tim and Lydia McGrew, which states that the Gospels are even more grounded in historical details and events compared to Greco-Roman biography. I'm just going to link 2 resources over here in the chat. This first one is Richard Burridge's "What Are the Gospels," which was the paradigm shift that occurred in New Testament scholarship pertaining to the genre of the Gospels. Like, I'm sorry, yeah, it's a completely fringe theory that like it's to be understood as like intentionally presenting like some mythological like founder of like a world religion in the so long ago distant past. Like, no, these were like people writing close to the events that were portrayed at hand. And then the second thing I wanted to link was the Eye of the, well, no, it was the other one by Lydia McGrew, The Mirror and the Mask, or The Mask. I'll link that, put it over here. But yeah, any thoughts from you, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, what critics do when they bring this point up, right, is what they're trying to say is something along the lines of, yeah, Greco-Roman bioi or whatever, like that's the correct understanding of what the synoptics are. But what they want to do is they want to treat them as inherently like fictional, just because of that. But we have actually numerous examples where ancient writers actually operate within the norms of what is historically accurate. And so that's why I want to say, like, well, this is just empirically false. And so the Gospels include things like that all the time. Specific historical, geographical and cultural details and things. I mean, we can get into that, but like factual reporting, like you mentioned earlier with the historical reportage model, and that aligns more closely with grounding itself within the strand, the genre, the strand of Greco-Roman bioi or just biography. Like that's all it is, right? And so what they would have to do to present a defeater. So if you're going to reason well, right, what you would have to do is, well, first they have to make an argument for that sake, and not just, sorry, I got a call there, and not just assert it, right? Like she's doing, as though it's just going to be the case, right? If I'm going to steelman her argument, it would be something like the prior probability of these documents being a Greco-Roman myth is so high that no amount of evidence in favor of them not being would be able to outweigh the probability in such a way where they would need to provide counter evidence. Okay, but they're not doing that, so I'm going to hold them to their standard. They're just asserting things for the sake of it. So what you need to do is you need to present defeaters that the Gospels, that you'd have to present an argument that would say the Gospels do not include specific historical, geographical, and cultural details.
I think it was a really like profound and eloquent philosopher who once said claims are not evidence who was an atheist. Can't remember who at the top of my head. Like, man, I was waiting for like a Robin Faith Walsh, but like no, apparently like people who treat the Gospels as like actually Greco-Roman biographies. So Bart Ehrman is not an actual historian by that exclusion. Neither is John Dominic Crossan, neither is Dennis MacDonald, neither is Dan McClellan. All these non-Christian scholars of the Bible are apparently not real scholars, because later on, Mark over here says that there's no serious scholar who says that the Bible is any history book, which is just flat out nonsense. It's academic death row is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have the timestamp for that one as well, actually.
Perfect.
2020. Here it is.
He was not the Messiah.
Right.
Like either the prophecies failed, or he's not.
Oh, wait, no, that's a long one, I think. Yeah.
The guy.
Yeah.
Take your
scholarship pertaining to early Christianity, including unbelieving skeptical academics. While some said
also.
Yeah, this is the wrong timestamp. My bad. Oh man, I'm getting so lost in this document. But oh yeah, Ember mentioned about like how Paul made up, like, or sorry, the empty tomb was made up after Paul. Um,
Greek mythological stories. It is a built, and Paul never mentions the empty tomb, almost like it was made up after Paul. But
Okay, so I guess these two have never met an argument from silence they didn't just love. So that's what I'm going to take from that.
yeah, for sure. And like, you know, Paul's letters are meant to address other issues in the church. They aren't like historical treatises on like the events surrounding Jesus' life. Like, we wouldn't expect anything like an empty tomb to be central in the letters of Paul that we happen to have now. I mean, maybe Paul did write something, but that's
listen,
not appealing. Yeah.
Listen, like, again, you know, let's hold them to their own standard. Like what you're doing is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to come up with hypotheses. Okay, what hypotheses exist to do what? They exist to explain things, right? But no, the only view on the table is we have to go from Paul was silent on X, therefore X is legend. That's it. That's the best kind of inference that we can come up with here. But like seriously though, like if there are valid ways to make arguments from ignorance. There are. This isn't one, right? And Tim McGrew, I mean, you know, Tim McGrew has a great paper on arguments from silence. There's also really good papers.
Stolens.
There's great papers on how to make arguments for ignorance valid, right? It's super simple. You just take your expectations, right? Like you said, put it in a valid logical structure, see if it aligns with the data we have, okay? And then what you do is you compare it against another valid logical structure where you change it to the opposite set of expectations and you see what it does with the data that we have, right? And what they're not doing that. They're not going to entertain the hypothesis you're putting on the table. What they're doing is they're doing none of this. They're just saying, well, the only reason why Paul would ever be silent on this aspect if it was legend, right? It's like, again, are we just assuming that the priors for legend theory is so high that no matter how much evidence you or I present, like it wouldn't weigh down their theory such that it still wouldn't outweigh our theory? It's like, one, we just know, right? And again, I'm giving them too much. Okay, I'm giving them too much here. But we just know that, like, according to the probability calculus, that's mathematical malpractice anyway. So they're just saying stuff. Again, like, I'm just keep checking it off. You just said something. Great. Like, what are we supposed to do now? You know, like, what were we like? It doesn't lead anywhere, but whatever.
Yeah. And not only to mention that, you know, in 1 Corinthians 15, Paul does mention that Jesus was thopto, he was buried, which would logically necessitate that Jesus' grave was left empty if he resurrected, which Paul believed that he did physically resurrect. And yeah, Mark Reed, I actually bring you this challenge. You say later in the video that thopto can refer to a dishonorable burial. I say it can only refer to an honorable burial. I challenge you to find me one source in Greco-Roman antiquity where it refers to a dishonorable burial. And the loser has to get on their knees prostrate and apologize on video. But yeah, you're not going to do that to your audience, are you now, Mark? As a matter of fact, now that we're at it, let me go ahead and bring up a Diodorus quote that shows that it is, in fact, the case that thopto only refers to an honorable burial. See over here. And I got this while watching Mike Jones debate with Captain Dadpool on the empty tomb. And the whole basic idea behind that is a bunch of Roman soldiers are not giving thopto to a bunch of criminals. So it doesn't make sense to not give them a dishonorable burial, if that's what thopto means. But here, let me click it over here. Put this over there. Share screen. Present something else. Yeah, over here, Diodorus. 16:4. Here it is. After they had won the naval battle, dismembered the body of Philistus, dragged it throughout the whole city, and cast it forth unburied. This is thopto. and you can look this up in Perseus' digital library if you have a Greek keyboard. I don't think I have a Greek keyboard installed on this computer, but yeah, it doesn't make sense to say he was like, oh, he was humiliated and not given a dishonorable burial or anything that could generically refer to that. But yeah, that's that. Let me go start sharing the other thing, the actual debate review, the cancerous debate review. Present something else. Close this off. All right, what's the next timestamp? Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. 940. Let's see. I think
The
you
whole thing. The point is, they are clearly mythological, and while they could,
mythological guys.
you can't rule out that they could contain real historical information. I mean, there's a fictional play about Julius Caesar, but he really existed.
Yeah.
To say that the gospel writers are serious historians whose main purpose is to convey factual accounts with integrity, not a chance. That is just plain false.
No serious.
Yeah. Yeah. Goodbye, Dr. Ehrman, Princeton University. Goodbye, John Dominic Crossan. Goodbye, like Marcus Borg, non-Christian scholars. Goodbye.
Well, I hope that she's speaking colloquially, not a chance. I mean,
Yeah.
really. I mean, really. So, bro, you know what they're saying. Like,
Yeah.
Look who we're dealing with. So the probability of the historical reportage model, just by its very nature, or sorry, not by its very nature, but by the textual evidence, the internal textual evidence, the probability of the historical reportage model to them, is, and I'm going to buffer this with actual reasoning, proper reasoning, is extremely low. Like that's all that would have to mean. Like the probability of the historical reportage model, given the textual evidence, is extremely low.
Well, I think like for them, they don't
I-
even like acknowledge that it's Greco-Roman biographies. Like,
well, that's their first mistake. But like, do you realize like who we're dealing with right now? Like, so there's, in their mind, there's no evidence in favor of the historical reportage model. Like that is what we're dealing with. I mean, if that's the case, then there's really only two options for us. I mean, you realize what that is. Either we can't, like, we literally cannot put as one instance, like one single probability raising piece of information from the New Testament, that would end up supporting historical reportage models. So we can't even do that. Like we're actually, we're actually metaphysically like incapable of doing that. And then two, if we were able to do that, do you know that we're just like being dishonest, and we're really just like playing like manipulation games, and we're really just like not being rational. Like those are our only two options, bro. So we better just like pack it up and go home.
Yeah.
The issue. I mean, here's the thing: if we're able to put any, if there's a piece of information that does support the historical reportage model's truth, then they're just gonna. It's easy for them, right? And the game they have to play is, they say that we're assessing the evidence wrong. I mean, that's where they would have to go. For any atheist that might ever watch this, right? You don't have to do this. You don't.
Yeah.
You don't.
There's so much better ways to engage with scholarship.
You don't have to
remain
do
an
this.
atheist.
Like the the historical reportage model being moderately probable does not get you to Christianity. What are we doing? Why are we dying on these hills? Why are we so? What, like, are you okay? Are we okay? Like, are we good? Like, I just want to know. Like, you know what I'm saying? But
yeah,
whatever. I'm not gonna engage in psychoanalyzing things, but
yeah. I think it's
historians consider the Bibles to be history book, or any religious text to be a history book.
There it is.
And they consider it to be an important document. There's no doubt about that, but it is not a book of history.
pause it.
No more than
Where are you even saying it's a history book? Like okay, so
yeah.
bro, like I almost need to stand up and go for a walk and come back. Where are you saying this is a history book? What are they
History
talking
reportage is way different from like history
What
books.
are they talking about?
Yeah.
The New Testament's a history
Oh, it
book?
gets worse, man. It gets worse. Listen to what they say.
Shakespeare's plays about Julius Caesar.
Right,
I mean, hell,
right.
they're in some ways more historically accurate,
No
and
more
it's
than
not as objective.
No more than the Quran or the Bhagavad Gita or any of the other.
No more than the Quran or the Bhagavad Gita. Like, I don't know about the Bhagavad Gita. If I remember correctly, don't quote me on this. It's predominantly wisdom literature. What
It's a
you
bunch of
can quote-
proverbs.
Yeah, but what you can quote me on is that the Quran is wholesale, not written in historical fashion. It has little to no historical claims. The genre itself is not even historical. Even Muslims will tell you this. All the surahs and the prayers and wisdom sayings, and maybe some occasional references to Muhammad's ministry, but they mostly really read like Psalms. But like to compare it to the Bible, which is like this, voluminous like collection of different genres of different books, is just a totally false analogy. Like yeah, like even Muslims who will like try to defend like dual carnane isn't like the sun setting in a muddy pool. Like they'll say what is it, Farid Response, who said it is a metaphysical matter. Yeah, like the Quran is not in the genre of historical reportage, and even Muslims will tell you that. That's what you go to the Hadith for. But hey, who can really expect a fundy atheist like these two clients to actually do their research? Golly.
Not too high of a standard.
Yeah, too high of a standard.
All right. Let's see it. What's the next one?
20157.
Some sort of Bible collection or divinely inspired dictation. These data points are important in assessing whether or not Jesus rose from the dead. We cannot rule out these sources as biased propaganda, similar to how we don't rule out eyewitness accounts of the Holocaust, Greco-Roman history, or the American Revolutionary War as needing to be corroborated by some disconnected third party.
But there are disconnected third parties corroborating all of these things, including sources biased in the other direction. The Holocaust, for example,
Like we don't have that for Jesus. Jeez. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Like this literally just shoots herself in the foot. Like we have Josephus Tacitus, Pliny the Younger, with his correspondence with Emperor Trajan. We have Suetonius, Marbar Serapion. It's like, come on, girl. Like one move ahead, bro. One move ahead. Oh man. But yeah, like we even have like non-biblical like Christian sources like First Clement from patristic fathers, or like the Didache or Polycarp or Ignatius. Yeah, like this idea that you can somehow like validate something as being historically accurate if it has no intentions. It's like, what kind of action has no intentions? Like, do they not understand like subject-object relationships? Like, this makes no sense.
The epistemology is I mean, the epistemology is unsalvageable. I mean, like you were saying, I mean, all you need is one source that's like you were mentioning, right? To meet her criterion that she thinks that we can't even come up with. All you need is one. You mentioned several, right? And anyone that would say that we wouldn't put ourselves in, especially when we're dealing with ancient history, like really ancient history. So we're dealing with ancient history. Anyone that says that even if they accept all those several external sources, that doesn't count. I mean, especially in the context of ancient history, right? Again, like this is who we're dealing with. Like this just tells us every people we're dealing with. So yeah, very, 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 again, a very strange hill to die on. That can be easily rebutted. I mean that's kind of something that you learn in like doing good philosophy. Reasoning well. You don't create positions that are easily refutable. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't stand on positions like that. Like I just don't think that's a hallmark of great human rational ingenuity.
100%. And it gets even worse. The train just gets even worse.
All these things can be verified. But also, he's missing another huge section, which is what makes one gospel official canon and what makes another apocryphal. Because there's a bunch of other stories that are exactly as well established, historically found.
Exactly as well established, ladies and gentlemen. Exactly as well established. Jeez. It's like, Ember, like, I will literally commit suicide if you can give me definitive proof that there was like any like non-canonical gospel that existed in the 1st century, because all of the canonical gospels existed in the 1st century. That's a scholarly consensus. And like I'm talking about like a gospel. So like Didache and like church fathers, you can't like say that's the gospel. I'll give you a hint because I'm merciful and I'm gracious, more than you could ask, think, or imagine. But yeah, the Gospel of Thomas is probably your best bet. Most scholars still think it's like the 2nd century. A minority, like a small minority, put it in the 1st century. But even those scholars who put it in the 1st century say it's dependent on the synoptic tradition, and it's just putting a Gnostic spin on it. And arguably, it's like probably not even like best categorized as a gospel because it's a list of sayings. So like, you got nothing, girl. You got nothing. Exactly the same. Am I still sharing the same screen, by the way? I just want to make sure. Okay, bet. All right. All right. Onomastic congruence. Let's go.
Well, apparently, onomastic congruence is a pattern of names in a text that reflects the people and events of the time and place it described. It's a characteristic of historiographic biographies from the early empire, which sort of early empire Rome, I presume, that they're talking about. Significant. What are the characteristics of onomastic congruence? A significant number of proper names, high level of detail in proper names, patterns of proper names that reflect situation, names with qualifiers or nickname. Yeah, so basically, it's used to say, hey, it's more likely if all the names are correct, basically, and that's fine. Like, we don't think that the authors didn't live in the region and around historically the same time. We're just sort of saying, hey, we don't know these events actually happened. So I don't, it doesn't really lend any. And I love how it's got like a footnote there. And he hasn't included the footnote. I love that.
Yeah, it's fun. But I mean, if it got the shit wrong, that would be a reason to disbelieve it. But failing.
You catch that?
Well,
the hypocrisy of that.
Yeah. So anyone who knows how to evaluate evidence would understand that there's a duality that we call the confirmation-disconfirmation duality, which is what disconfirms a hypothesis, right? The exact negation is what confirms it. So she's saying if they got it wrong, that would be reason to disbelieve it. So that means the negation would be if they got it right, it'd be reason to believe it. You can't have disconfirmation and have the negation not be confirmation. That is epistemic and mathematical malpractice. Like that doesn't even exist. You can't just say that, right? And so again, they don't understand what the argument for onomastic congruence is, and they don't understand. They've never read they've never read why name popularity is a good test of historicity. They've never read that paper. I'm sorry. You're coming up on the fly with objections. I can tell. I can see that you're coming up on the fly with these objections.
It's all right to just admit you don't know, man. It's all right.
Listen, take the L based on your ignorance of the topic and move on. Like that's okay. But here's the thing. I'll make it easy for you. Like I'll play the better atheist. Okay, onomastic congruence is a good test for historicity. Boom. That is an evidential chip in favor of the historical reportage model, which, by the way, they just kind of hand waved. Do you notice how they're not even they barely even talk about it? It's an evidential chip in favor of the historical reportage model. But there's still a lot of work left to do to get to the full-blown resurrection of Jesus Christ. Right?
Yeah.
Here, I'm the better atheist. Like here, let me be an atheist for you. Okay. So, but no, what you're doing is you're violating well-established epistemology. That's what you choose to do instead. But again, these are the people, we're gonna keep saying it. I'm gonna be that guy. These are the people that we were dealing with.
Yeah. And apparently 85% onomastic congruence on a goodness of fit test versus Josephus versus novels versus other gospels and other literature, and versus a uniform sampling of just random stuff. Oh yeah, 85% versus orders of magnitude, mind you, less probable. No, I'm gonna go with the orders of magnitude less probable that they'll get the names right, because luck and determinism. So
I mean, hey, if you want to do that, if you want to have the worst off hypothesis, if you just like bad hypotheses, then like be my guest. Like, hey, if that's what gets you going, man.
Yeah, and like the novel that they took from was Ben-Hur, a fictional novel, made in the 19th century, and it could not achieve anything near like orders of magnitude below a percentage point, for onomastic congruence on a goodness of fit test. Not even Josephus, a Roman-funded historian, could achieve the same type of onomastic congruence.
Wow,
According to the popularity of like first century Palestine, like names and their popularity.
Bro, it's almost like just perhaps maybe even perchance that the gospel writers were just like reporting facts.
Yeah.
Like as like accurately. Like perchance. Like maybe like have you ever thought of that? I mean,
that's a good point.
Wouldn't that be crazy if they were just reporting facts and that's why that then I mean, wow.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, they haven't read like Gregory and Blair's paper that Luke Vandewey is actually responding to and show their methodological errors, which I have in full display over here. But yeah, like totally ridiculous. Like naming like onomastic congruence has nothing to do with historicity. It's like, get out of here. Like, don't tell me that 85% and orders of magnitude below 1% like are the same. Like, stop.
Nope.
Just stop.
Well, again, right? I mean, the viewers aren't going to read any of these things. They've never read any of these things, right? So you got to come up with stuff on the fly that just, you know.
Yeah, it'd be like that. Share.
All right, let's get to it.
Yeah. Like no one was like it was like you were saying, like no one is like making an argument like out of necessity. Like it's just another evidential chip.
Yeah, if you think that this is some kind of deductive demonstration by the truth-preserving kind, where it's logical consequence or logical entailment, like just take a philosophy class.
Facts. Like,
just like take symbolic logic or something, and like don't waste our time.
Yeah. 48. I'm just gonna start here.
The idea that they have had to have been eyewitnesses close to the events portrayed. As for the Spider-Man fallacy, unlike in the modern world where we are free to Google any fact to our convenience,
this graphic is just.
I got this from
It's
Tesla.
amazing. This graphic is amazing, is what you're going to say.
Yeah, 100%.
It's just ridiculous, and it doesn't really address the actual crux of the argument. He's referring to Matt Dillahunty.
Oh man, like here's the thing. Not only are they just like propositionally and analytically impoverished in terms of their tools to make proper inferences, but they're also aesthetically impoverished. Like that's just like like you're disabled at this point. Like,
yeah,
and no offense at disabled people, like
all good.
That's fine. This right here though, at least you can appreciate aesthetics, you know what I'm saying? But like, man, like not only are you propositionally impoverished, but you're also aesthetically impoverished. Like that's kind of a tough.
Yeah, they sort of bring it up, but like, he's saying that like she was like, oh, which one's supposed to be the atheist or the Christian? And he responds by saying, oh, it's this one who's supposed to be the atheist because he's wearing a fedora. Oh, I wonder why why it went over her head, if you know what I'm saying. That's a good freeze frame.
Yikes.
Oh man. Yeah. Like, okay. 2:14:18.
Aforementioned details without having been close to the events at hand, without arguing for a mechanism that rebuts how unreasonable, costly, and inefficient it would have been for the gospel writers to insert insider knowledge into supposedly historically inspired novels. The fallacy fails as a false analogy.
What do you mean insider knowledge? No, wait. What do you mean insider? It's like me knowing the landmarks of my location is insider knowledge. What are you talking about, my guy? They just lived in the area. Like none of the stuff that's in there, like what the conversation with the guard that the priest had afterwards. You mean that the
like there weren't like secret followers of Jesus like in the Sanhedrin?
Secret conversation that they probably shouldn't have known about. Like, yeah, how did they get that knowledge, or did it maybe just they made it up? Like, I don't understand, because all of the stuff that we can confirm would be things known by people living in that area at that time. Like, you think about it, like, it mentions certain landmarks. The names are consistent with names that were used in the area. Sure. But that's not insider knowledge. That's very, very just general knowledge of the area.
Yeah, knowing where Galilee is relative to Jerusalem.
Right.
Maps existed. You know, people could find things. It's not That's what are you trying to say?
I mean, not
Oh,
saying that
they call the burial ground the potter's field. That's insider knowledge. Only
Insider knowledge,
arbitrary citizens of Jerusalem could possibly know that.
You know, the irony of this is that topographical maps weren't a thing back in the day, since nobody had like satellite imagery regarding like the distance between a landmark and sea level. And Tim McGrew actually debunks an apparent gospel error where Jesus apparently didn't know his geography, but in fact was trying to go around a mountain instead of climbing, something only locals would have known. So let me go ahead and pull up that video.
Yeah, pull that up because again, like
this
why
is
do-
like Jerusalem in Galilee, like that's not the level of detail we're talking about.
and that's what I was gonna say. It's like you think that's like what we're talking about, like just that as general of information. You think that's what we're talking about? Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Tells me everything I need to know.
Present something else. Hopefully Testify doesn't give me a copyright strike on this. Here we go.
From the region of Tyre and went through Sidon to the Sea of Galilee in the region of the Decapolis. Hard to find inspiring words to say about that little bit of Jesus' travel itinerary. But there's an interesting problem. Here's the problem. If we glance at a map, you see that Tyre is here, Sidon is here, and the region of the Decapolis is down here. Now, if you were going to go from Tyre to the region of the Decapolis, why wouldn't you go straight down to the Decapolis? Why would you go north to go south? I suppose we could say, well, maybe Jesus had some reason he wanted to go to Sidon. But you know, and I know, what the New Testament critics would say if you made such a lame shift at an explanation. Oh, you're just going to do anything to harmonize this and to make it come out right. Come on, be a serious scholar. Admit that Mark just doesn't know what he's talking about. And in fact, many commentators have said just that. So here's from a commentary about a decade ago, Adam Wynne, The Purpose of Mark's Gospel. Many interpreters have noted this awkward route as evidence that Mark was unfamiliar with the geography of Palestine and Galilee. It seems difficult to believe that a person living in Galilee who is educated enough to produce such a gospel as Mark would be unfamiliar with the geographical relationship between Tyre and Sidon. I love it when modern biblical critics lead with their chin. This is a boxing term. These people sitting at their library tables in Tübingen, which are nice and flat, and rolling out their nice flat maps and tracing lines in 2 dimensions. Let's go beyond that, shall we? Here's a topographical map of Palestine. Here's Tyre. Here's Sidon. Oh, what's this orange stuff in here? Oh, 1208. That's meters. Okay. And what's this? Well, this is right down here by the Sea of Kinneret, or of Galilee. This is a negative 210. That's 210 meters below sea level. The Sea of Galilee is the world's lowest freshwater lake. How many of you have done any climbing around in mountains? Anybody like to do some hiking? Right. So let me tell you what it's like, and stop me when I get it wrong. You start at the base of the mountain, and you look up at a point at the top, and you say, that's where I want to go. And then you just march straight up the mountain, up to the top, and then right over, right? Is that how it works? Yeah, right, 9. Not how it works. Any serious rough terrain, you're going to be doing switchbacks. You'll come to a thicket that you've got to go around. It's very hard to ascend a mountain that doesn't have a nice paved road going right over the crown, right? Sorry, the orange, where am I going? I'm going here. The orange region, here, that seems to thin out right about there, and then it gets really severe as we go to the Golan Heights and stuff up in this region. But there's this little region right here where we're coming over to the Jordan River. Oh, that's an elevation of just 70 meters. And what's the elevation here at the coastline? It is sea level. 0 is the elevation at sea level, right? So to go from 0 to 70 doesn't seem too bad. If you go up here around the shoulder of this mountain, plus you'll notice there's a little rivulet coming in here. You'll have some water. That rivulet is running to the sea, of course, not back from it. So you'll have fresh water all the way down the Jordan River Valley till you reach your destination. And if you've done much hiking in an arid climate, you'll understand that water actually matters. This is just a picture of Mount Meron today. Notice the northern shoulder of it dropping down to present a much less formidable obstacle for those who want to cross it. No further comment seems necessary.
Nice, well done. Tim McGrew always does a great job.
Based. But no, apparently the Gospels are just Greco-Roman fiction. Just writing from Rome. Freaking, like, just got it right.
Yep.
85% onomastic congruence, even though the base rate for literature that is not related to the time period is like orders of magnitude below 1%.
Yeah, 85, and 85%. And that best supports legend theory. Am I right?
Yeah.
It doesn't support anything like the historical reporters model state.
I would want 90%.
Yeah, no. Like it's 85% this majority, right? This outweighing denominator, it supports legend instead. Getting things right supports legendary development. It doesn't support factual reporting.
I'm not streaming on StreamYard, but Drew says online atheists will destroy Kent Hovind in a debate and then they think they've defeated Christianity.
That is actually facts. That is actually facts.
Like, to be honest, it'd be like that. That's how it goes. Like, they don't bother to engage with like higher level intellectual Christians.
No, that's not the point. Remember, dude, we're supposed to be swamp men believers.
Oh yeah,
okay?
yeah, that's true.
We're supposed to, like, it shouldn't take.
Don't want to go against the narrative. They're sensitive.
Yeah, it shouldn't take any work to defeat us, dude. They're not going to read anything.
Present something else. 2:16:20.
Now, quick reminder, Gary Habermas is the historian so professional that, first of all, his degree is not in history or New Testament studies, but set that aside because I'm not a person.
But Bard Ehrman, his degree is in textual criticism. So not in New Testament or history, but set that aside.
You can only have authority if you have a certification in the specific. No, you can spend your life learning about a subject and become quite an expert at it, even without a credential in that specific thing. And he's been at it for decades. What I don't like about Gary is that he's the guy, when asked about the likelihood of the authenticity of the Shroud of Turin, a known forgery, whether he believes it's authentic, he replied, and I quote, "I give it 60 to 80%, depending on what kind of mood I'm in." This is how serious this man is. He determines the validity of things, the likelihood that they're authentic, based on his fucking mood.
Okay,
Wow.
wait.
Yeah, like never mind that.
Am I supposed to believe that these two don't base evidence for the Christian God based on what they think would convince them?
Yeah.
So,
it's
I mean, honestly,
all objective, like a machine.
So
they never change.
I'm supposed to believe that these two people don't base evidence for Christianity on what would convince them. So they're both engaging in psychological confidence ratings, which is, and this is such a, I mean, this, because the point I'm making is they're both equally evaluating evidence based on their psychology.
Yeah.
Right. Based on their psychological disposition at a particular time T. Do they, so what's crazy about this is, one, that's a very uncharitable interpretation of Gary Habermas. Right?
Yeah, like never mind that, like, he's co-authored and collaborated with leading experts on the Shroud of Turin.
Well, let's just have some EQ, right? And not just be so right-brained for a moment. When someone says, I give it between 60 and 80%, but depends on the move I am. How about we just interpret that as them, like, having some
epistemic
EQ.
humility?
Well, let's just interpret them as just like not being so right-brained, and then basically saying, some days it seems like the evidence in favor of the Shroud is high, and some days it seems lower, as more data starts to cut. Like that's what that means. Okay, are we supposed to really pretend like they don't see that? Really? Like Gary, like when he says, "Oh, it depends on my mood." I mean, you know the way the dude talks. Like, the dude's funny.
Yeah.
Like
he was a hockey coach.
So again, this right here is just notoriously bad. But I would be surprised if these two said, if I were to say, "Hey, you know, if I present all this evidence for Christianity, then would you apportion your confidence then to that evidence, without it at all convincing you?" I would think that they would have a problem with the part of it not convincing them. These usual types, and yes, I'm generalizing, these usual types base the evidential weight of positions based on it convincing them, right? Rather than what the mind independent support the proposition has, right? And so negating that position, then they're going to equally be playing psychology games around evidence. So it's hypocritical to go after Habermas, very inconsistent to go after Habermas for such a claim.
Yeah, especially when you consider when he was uttering those statements, like it was also around the same time when he got the Freedom of Information Act to view the wide angle X-ray scattering stuff test for the Shroud of Turin, which thoroughly debunks the carbon dating that apparently shows that it's a forgery. But yeah, next one, 21738.
This fucking move with a new variation, I suppose, on the minimal fact argument, because he's always adding a minimal fact or subtracting a minimal fact based on what the predominantly Christian scholars, but he does include atheist scholars, are convinced of at the given moment. And so, yeah, we've got some minimal facts to work with here. And again, fact does not mean demonstrated to be true, but a popularity contest among a majority Christian field of scholars, what they are personally convinced of. So fact doesn't.
So wait.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
so now consensus doesn't mean anything. So now I can actually go
because earlier they said.
So now yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because earlier they said the consensus is that the Gospels were mythology, what is just wrong. But now they're playing the reverse card when
now it's just popularity games. Now it's just it's an interesting sociological phenomenon. That's all this is now. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and never mind that, like, Dr. Habermas, like, actually in his interviews, writings, and publications, like, several times he defines scholar not to mean just the pastor. He's talking about someone with a regionally accredited terminal degree. He says it in these exact words, in a relevant subject matter, whether that be in classics, ancient history, New Testament, early Christianity, so on and so forth. So this insinuation that somehow that Christians, like, enter the field and pollute the conclusions made by biblical scholars is just flat out wrong. In fact, it's a testament to the idea that in light of all of the evidence that they can still predominantly say that Christ is risen, even though, like, in a separation of church and state, they wouldn't be endorsed to teach that in a public classroom. But yeah, it is true that the majority of biblical scholars are Christian. So, anything you want to add, Tim?
Nope. No, I said all I want to say.
Yeah. 1840.
Which what now?
Yeah, I'm not sure all scholars agree that, like, some having been martyred. We only know of one person that was maybe martyred. Like, he seems to be putting a lot in here. Jesus' death caused the disciple to despair and lose hope. I'm not sure if all scholars would agree on that.
Yeah, he seems to be
Yeah, so Mark Reed is gaslighting you, folks. He doesn't know jack squat about the scholarship surrounding Christian persecution. He doesn't go with, like, Candida Moss or anything like that, but it's like, oh, Matthew wasn't martyred in Ethiopia. Oh, so none of the apostles were martyred. Jeez. It's like, have you even read, like, Fate of the Apostles by Sean McDowell, which was endorsed by Dale Allison? It's like, bro, I don't think Matthew was martyred in Ethiopia either. So it's like,
yeah,
like, go for at least the most, like, evidentially weighted, like, apostles, like Peter, where he's mentioned, in John, First Clement, a lot of Christian writings.
That would assume, right, that the standard procedure, like the best procedure, is to attack the best argument your interlocutor has, not the weakest one, right? That would require them to go above their usual standards there.
Yeah,
I think that's the problem.
Yeah, I think we're just asking for too much.
We are, man. We are.
Yeah, don't go after James the Just, whose martyrdom is mentioned in Josephus and Hegesippus, or James the son of Zebedee. Yeah, just go after Matthew. Yeah, because that's totally representative of the scholarship. Yeah. Oh yeah, and they said something about, like, engineering facts, like, yeah, like, people can, like, look at the debate that Gary Habermas had against Antony Flew. I did reword some things to make it easier to understand, but as far as I can tell, like, it's a very faithful representation of what this consensus of scholarship lies on. So yeah, I'm not. There's nothing reworded here that doesn't reflect the consensus. 1907.
But I don't know why, if that was the will of God and you know, it showed that Jesus died for all of our sins for absolution, why did they despair and lose hope?
They didn't believe in him until
They didn't
he
believe.
gave them proof.
Yeah.
Ooh, 200 IQ response. Maybe that's what I was actually referring to. Ooh,
Wow.
mind blown.
Well,
Man, like even Bart Ehrman will tell you that like the
Wow.
disciples like lost hope and then like were convinced of the resurrection. But oh, I guess he's like stupid too. So
yep. Secretly atheist.
yeah, secretly a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
36.
Scholars think they despaired and lose hope is because Jesus sort of was a doomsday prophet, but he prophesied that like it was right around the corner that it would happen with him, not after him.
Yeah, so many others have already addressed this failed apocalyptic trope that's been run rampant since the days of Albert Schweitzer. I'll simply link a couple of models and a video that I made in the description later pertaining to historical critical responses to the failed apocalyptic prophet model. I mean, there's Joel Kirko's like interpretation of the Olivet discourse, where he takes the adversative versus the opposite of the adversative. I think this is the genitive. Where he's talking about those things and these days are referring to two separate conversational contexts, like the destruction of Jerusalem and the end of days. There's Mike Jones and Christopher Hayes, When the Son of Man Didn't Come, and their whole model of conditional prophecy. I tend to take the route that Dr. Tucker S. Furta has recently endorsed, the Galilean crisis, which is basically this idea that Jesus did look forward to a future towards the end of his lifetime, which he was not a part of, but would pass down his spirit to his disciples, because initially he was hoping that Israel would repent, but Israel did not repent and he faced greater opposition, eventually crucified. He was, you know, like, he had these two conflicting desires, hoping that the kingdom of God would imminently be brought about, but it wasn't. So he understood later in his life that he had to suffer and die for the sins of the world, which is reflected well in like the Garden of Gethsemane. But yeah, anything you want to add on that, Tim?
No, all good. This is great.
Yeah, for sure. See here.
As Bill Craig points out, there was no expectation of a dying Messiah. The fact that he died showed, based on biblical prophecy, he was not the Messiah.
Right.
Like either the prophecies failed or he's not the guy.
Yeah.
Take your.
Oh yeah, like forget the rabbinic interpretations of like the fourth servant song, Isaiah 53. Forget that in fourth Ezra and second Baruch, the Messiah like actually dies after his rule on earth. Like forget like Paul Copen's article where, you know, the New Testament authors were engaging in a common form of Jewish midrash, a well-established school of biblical interpretation according to the Dead Sea Scroll community. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, like there's no better way to describe these two than like academic charlatans or clowns. Like, seriously.
Oh yeah, I mean, not interested in nuance or rigor or sophistication, proper representation or good faith, attacking the best argument, right? These are all traits of sophistry.
Yeah, sophistry indeed.
Jesus was not a rabbi, at least according to the Gospels. After he cured the leper in Matthew, he healed the leper. He told the leper to go to a priest because Jesus.
This is her argument.
Himself was not a priest. According to Jesus, Jesus was not a rabbi. But details.
So Jesus is not a priest, therefore Jesus is not a rabbi. Ooh, 200 IQ argument.
Yikes! Yikes! See, I love these non sequiturs. I love these two-step inferences that they love to use. I wonder what would happen if they did more, like used more. Like, would they just like cease to function, or
yeah? I wonder if they can play chess properly. Like, do they just look like their immediate move like being captured, or do they like actually use strategy?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah.
Like, I mean, all the scholars would give you the boot if you enrolled any of their courses and said something nonsense like this.
Oh yeah.
Like, seriously, like, it's funny because like someone actually points out in the stream that she's wrong. regarding the priest and rabbi distinctions, and she
Yep.
continues to use this argument nonetheless, in part 2. So yeah, it's bad. He's bad. Let's see if we have any other chats coming in. No, it doesn't look like it. 22140.
Consensus leans towards sort of Jesus being a person, but the consensus does not lead towards the resurrection happened. So if you want to use consensus, it's a bit of
Yeah, so of course
Really?
there are
That's the
yeah,
argument?
yeah, but he already admitted that most of them are Christians. So it's like, bro, it's like it's a complete failure to understand how consensuses work. Like there are no sociological polls or grants or research money that they like throw at you for professing the reality of the resurrection. You know, it's a public institution. The vast majority of these education systems are public institutions. And for them to say that Jesus' resurrection is a historical fact violates the separation of church and state. It's like Dale Allison might believe in the resurrection of Jesus, but he's not going to teach that at like woke Princeton University. It's like, come on, dude. You don't know what you're talking about.
Nope.
Okay. And then there's a part 2.
I used to think when I started doing
Bruh.
Have you ever found yourself wondering about
the freaking ads? There's probably going to be one more coming up. This one. That's hurting my ears.
when Paul, it definitely is a word, but things, how, you know, if you look at it from the gospel writers, whoever they are, that's the other problem. We don't know who wrote them. Whoever they were, their perspective, we get their certain.
So the gospel authors are anonymous. You know, I'm just going to defer to IP on this. He did a great series on this. Can't recommend it enough. Plenty of evidence for attestation for the apostles of the being the attributions for the gospels. Like, it makes zero sense for the early church to consider anonymous gospels as authoritative. Like, even if you were to say like the names were added later, which by the way happen to be universally attested, despite the various geographical locations of the manuscript titles attributed to those gospels. Like, it makes zero sense for like Theophilus to receive this anonymous gospel and consider it authoritative, like it wasn't, like as if he didn't already know it was from Luke. Oh man, but it gets even worse.
Certain things in there that they're saying that is accurate to what is there at the time. Like when Paul does his, epistles and his letters to Romans and things like that, we know that he's.
Wait, no, I think it's over here, 1404. Yep.
A big piece of evidence. Also, I mean, there's the fact that even if we had an empty tomb, and the fact that we don't is a pretty big problem. But even if we had an empty tomb, cool.
We don't have the empty tomb today, therefore it didn't exist ever.
Is that what? Is that shit like today or at all?
I'm pretty sure she meant like at all. She said like it's a pretty big problem. Hey Tim, can you think of like something that happened in like 70 of the Common Era? You know, something that happened to Jerusalem. You know, that would make it like indicative of the fact that that we wouldn't have the tomb in our possession.
Maybe the word starts with the C, like some kind of cataclysmic event. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, like maybe this whole city was destroyed. I wonder if the whole city of Jerusalem was destroyed.
And if the city was destroyed, maybe it displaced where he dude.
Yeah.
Dude, I think we just figured it out.
Yeah. Who would have thought? Jeez.
Crazy. See,
200 IQ.
Yeah. I mean, I love it though, because it's like they don't have to deal with your actual arguments, man. This is what a way to go. I wish it was this easy.
Yeah.
But I'm over here. I mean, dude, I wish it was easy. I'm over here studying like, logic and like epistemology and how to like, reason to the best ability that I can. Like
you're actually engaging with like Graham Malpe and like actual philosophers.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, they actually mention it later in their stream that there's a good reason for why Jesus wasn't as important. So over here,
very important people, and
The kind of
unfortunately,
person who normally wouldn't get crucified in the first place.
exactly. And the whole point was that Jesus was not an important person in the Jewish in the Jewish sort of
Society.
hierarchy here. Yes, society here. He wasn't, or else
yeah, he wasn't an important person of society. Ooh, I wonder. Maybe that's the reason why they gave up the body so easily, because like he wasn't super contentious. Excuse me. But yeah, let's see over here. 5330.
Arimathea even was, but also the idea of having a person, a member of the Sanhedrin, because they unanimously voted to condemn Jesus, and then, but actually he's a secret Christian.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. I guess she has like the secret proceedings of like all of the Sanhedrin regarding Jesus' execution.
Right.
Like,
yeah. Only
How about-
person.
Yeah, only person. Like she has access to the library. We don't have access to.
Right.
Like,
right.
I mean, or we can like read text in their proper context, but I guess that's just too hard.
We don't like context.
Yeah. Like John the Baptist, like baptizing all of Israel apparently like means that he was baptizing like all of Israel unilaterally.
Yeah, well, yeah. What else
Yeah.
we need?
Like the Sadducees got baptized. I don't even think they do baptisms, but like Pontius Pilate got baptized. King Herod got baptized.
Oh,
Yeah.
regenerated.
Yeah, that's how to best interpret Mark, according to these clowns. 5650.
The thing isn't reported doesn't mean it didn't happen, yada yada. He's used it in reverse by saying, oh, well, they never argued against it. Well, there's a much more reasonable explanation for why they wouldn't argue
So she's referring over here to the enemy attestation of the empty tomb, and this is her response.
against it, because there isn't one. I mean, I'm not arguing against the purple elephant in the middle of my city.
Right.
That doesn't demonstrate there is.
Yeah, so this is just her failure to understand the literature. So it's not that they just didn't argue against the empty tomb. It's that they directly acknowledged it in their response. The response was that the disciples stole the body from the empty tomb. Not, oh yeah, like I'm not arguing against that. Like even Justin Martyr's dialogue with Trypho mentions this kind of dialogue. But yeah, I guess that's just too hard. Yeah. Let's see over here. $58, $53.
Either. And number two, and the one that really tears it to shreds with, is that if you are creating a story.
Oh yeah, this is in reference to the women testimony as an unlikely invention of a patriarchal society.
About this, and you have to have someone find the body or the lack thereof. Who would you get to? Well, the women did all of the funeral rites. They prepared the body. They did all the oils. They did all of the stuff to do with taking care of the body after it had been laid to rest in a tomb, for instance. So of course it's going to be the women because men didn't do that job. Why would they be there?
Oh, men only did that job. Ooh, I wonder if there's like scholarship that ever talks about this subject.
Yep.
Oh man, they make it too easy, man. See over here, share screen. Present something else. Window. Yeah, I'm gonna share my PowerPoint real quick. Only women did the burial practices. Well, the fact of the matter is that the body was ritually cleansed by members of the same gender, usually, as the deceased. Women like did mostly the mourning stuff, but like if you were a guy who died, it was the guys who took care of like your actual body. And if you were a woman who died, the women took care of your actual body. And this is reflected in the latest scholarship. Tan Elon, the same person who came up with, like, I believe, the same index for the biography of like Jewish names in Onomastic congruence. I might be wrong on that, but the preparations of corpses for burial were carried out according to gender. Women took care of female bodies, men took care of male bodies. Their purity and modesty laws. Like, I don't know what these people are talking about. They're just making stuff out of things.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, not factual reporting, you know.
Yeah. Stop sharing that. Present now. Debate dissection.
Very nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I have to get the next timestamp. We already did Thopto being only referring to an honorable burial.
Nice. And I can stay for one more. And then I gotta get running, just letting you know.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, yeah, then we'll just yeah, I'll probably continue on. But yeah, like actually, like, yeah, you can go after you sort of like give your outro, but like your overall thoughts and where people can find you.
My overall thoughts and where they can find me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my overall thoughts of this, I'm very disappointed in the the reason why I call it sophistry in this is because sophistry, properly defined, is when you use rhetoric to make the weakest argument appear the strongest. I feel that's all that's happening here, is that there are some incredibly weak arguments that are being used to respond to your arguments, and they are packaged in such a way where unsuspecting, uneducated individuals think it looks like the strongest argument, and it's just not. And so I'm very disappointed in that, but again, right, I shouldn't have been expecting so much. And I ultimately think that your case is still intact. The core and the foundation have not moved. There are no cracks. So ultimately, this is really good. Of course, you also have Travis as well, the natural theology stuff. And Travis always does a good job talking to people on a more reasonable, calm basis. And aside that, for myself, guys, yeah, like, never heard of me before, just give us a subscribe to Doxastic Mastery. And again, hit my link to get some actual personalized feedback on where you're at. And if you want to step into the next level of your apologetics journey or growing intellectually confident in your faith, I'll reach out to you in 24 hours of filling that out. Aside from that, there's a lot of free value on the channel. I'm going to be posting twice a week. And with that being said, keep up with me regularly on Instagram and TikTok, but mainly Instagram. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got to really say.
Yeah, thanks for that, Tim. Thanks for hanging out with me and like listening to this brain cancer. I know like this is not your typical sort of crowd that you deal with, but I really appreciate the support, man.
Yeah, I mean, they exist and they can do damage to people who are still trying to become sure of their worldview, and so it's important to respond to these things. But yeah, man, with that being said, bro, awesome stuff. Thanks for having me on, and peace out to your audience. Bye.
Yep. See you, Tim. All right, I guess I'm just going to continue on my list of stuff to respond to. Let's see over here. What am I sharing right now? Still sharing the PowerPoint, I think. No, I'm sharing the video. Okay. 104:38.
Yes, but it wasn't the Jews that had control over that body. It was the Romans. That's the whole point. Like, it wasn't so this whole thing about the Jews crucified Jesus. No, the Romans did it. Right? The Romans actually carried out that punishment. It wasn't no Sanhedrin stabbed him in the side with a spear. That was a Roman soldier. Right? Like,
Except that's not what I said. I mean, like, literally, this quote of Josephus in context is talking about Roman occupied Judea. Like, Josephus wasn't alive for the Hasmonean dynasty. He was born around the end of Pontius Pilate's rule. So, like, yeah, I acknowledge that Romans crucified and yes, Jews buried. That's why they got permission from Pilate. If anything, this points to the internal consistency. So, yeah, 105:30.
And making a tomb for them. In that time in the ancient Levant, a tomb was stuff usually reserved for kings and high priests, and like an ordinary priest wouldn't get a tomb, right? Maybe a more
Yeah, I'd like to see them produce that data because as far as I know, we have plenty of rock-hewn tombs around Jerusalem that were not occupied by only high priests. So yeah. Let's see, 115:50. Oh man, I only got through like a little bit of it in preparation for this live stream. There's so much that I want to go over as well. Yeah, these are just the main things I decided
Didn't I say standard burial?
Sort of like go over. Yeah, standard burial.
When someone goes standard burial with one of the community cemeteries. Yeah, that's what we'd expect, a mass grave. Yes, the community cemeteries. Yeah.
Except that's not what I said. Oh, it's every freaking second, bro. Oh, let me go pull up freaking skeleton. This is one of the archaeological finds. Within 4926. Freaking ad. Save my choices. Yeah, totally mass grave. Doesn't look like an individual grave. Jeez. And yeah. It's like, I think 2 steps ahead, man. Um 11922.
Not independent. Like Luke and John definitely sort of copied their homework from Mark. There's no doubt about it. And Matthew just gets wild. Like, I mean, it gets wild. Like,
Nah, he's got 2-source hypothesis completely wrong. I mean, like, the synoptic problem isn't mere copying. It's the idea that there are 5 independent sources that the 4 gospels use to create their stories. You've got the pre-Mark and Passion narrative, Q, M, L, and John, which many scholars regarding John, I know there's some tendency nowadays to think that John was aware of the synoptics, which is very different from saying that John copied the synoptics. So yeah, just please read up on 2-source hypothesis, Mark. You don't know what you're talking about. Just shut up. We talked about like a dying Messiah prior to Jesus. Interestingly enough, I think Israel Knowles talks about like the Son of God text, and I believe that's the one where it says like 3 days later the sign will be given, which is like some weird interpretation of Daniel, which could be the precedent for being raised on the 3rd day according to the scriptures and the idea and inspiration behind that. But yeah. 2313.
all of the great
details.
And the earthquake, because it was an earthquake that opened up all of the tombs.
Yeah. And the eclipse.
And the eclipse, yeah, that none of the others mentioned. So these are the questions.
Yeah. An eclipse and an earthquake. I wonder if there is such data concerning such an eclipse or an earthquake. Maybe Peter J. Williams talks about it. What happened during the Friday of Nisan of Passover of 33 CE. I just wonder. Oh, another ad. Present something else. Peter Williams. Share.
As this, the sun shall be darkened, turn to darkness, and the moon to blood before the day of the Lord comes. He's quoting Joel. Now, the striking thing is this. That date, 3rd of April, AD 33, was the date of a lunar eclipse that took place in Jerusalem, visible from 6:20 p.m.
It's Peter
to
J. Williams.
7:11 p.m. The times are really quite precise. That's been calculated independent of any date of the crucifixion. It's something that's worked back from astronomy. Now, during a lunar eclipse, of course, the sun, the sun can't shine directly onto the moon because the Earth is in the way. And that gives the moon a reddish view. Now, this is just, if you like, and it's not the icing on the cake, but it's just one more coincidence associated with Jesus of Nazareth. Something that's only...
Oh yeah, just one more coincidence that apparently is just legend. Yeah, because it's totally not evidence for the Gospels. Yeah, and I believe there's also some data concerning an earthquake that took place around that time, according to geological data. So let me go ahead and drop those 2 links in the live chat right now. Here's a link concerning the eclipse that happened during the death of Jesus. And here is the data concerning the earthquake. All right. I should probably save a lot of this for another stream, to be honest, guys. But yeah, hopefully that's a little bit comprehensive, a little bit of a foretaste of what is to come in this annihilatory refutation part 2. We're talking like freaking Hume's abject failure, according to Ehrman. We're talking about hearsay and how it's been misappropriated in these discussions, because Mark Reed mentions hearsay as like not being admissible in evidence or in court, which is very different from being like evidentially, like epistemically relevant, because the way we assess something that happened concurrently or nowadays is different how we assess something of ancient history when there are no stakes on the line. The whole difference between reasoning to the best inference versus the preponderance of evidence versus beyond reasonable doubt. We're also going to be talking about like how Josephus also mentions Jesus in another part of his Antiquities of the Jews. Yeah, he just says a bunch of nonsense, and I can't wait to like tear him to shreds on it. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this live stream with me and Tim Howard, at your boy Apollo, signing out. Peace. Ooh.